Okay, so hello everyone. In the previous discussion video, we were able to discuss the concept of the laws of thermodynamics, and we have mentioned about the Zeroth Law of Thermodynamics, which states that if two bodies A and B are in thermal equilibrium with the third body C, then the body A and B are also in thermal equilibrium with each other. So now I want to explain the most important and real life example of your zeroth law of thermodynamics. So we can refer to this very simple example of the zeroth law of thermodynamics uh, as what we have seen in this representation here. Okay, so from the zeroth law of your thermodynamics, we found that there is one physical property that indicates whether the bodies are in thermal equilibrium or not. And that property is what you referred to as temperature. Okay, in simple terms, we can say that the zeroth law of thermodynamics helps us in finding the temperature of a certain body. So, amo na ang pinaka-importante nga concept of your zeroth law of thermodynamics. From this example or from this representation, when a thermometer is kept in contact with a human body, it achieves your thermal equilibrium with the human body. At this condition, ang temperature sa ating nga thermometer will be the same with the temperature sa human body. Thus, in this way, the zeroth law of thermodynamics is used para mabalaan naton ang temperature of the body using a thermometer. Okay, so amo na siya ang pinagid ka main na concept of your zeroth law of thermodynamics. Okay, so if you could notice sa sini nga representation or sa sini nga diagram subong, we have here your phase diagram and triple point. So question is, what is phase, what is diagram? Simply kidding, that diagram that shows or that is showing phase. Okay, so it is somewhat in a very technical na concept or very technical nga or literal nga definition. But the actual meaning is somewhat similar to this one. So now you might have heard about or pwede natin ma-recall ang mga phases of matter including your solid, your liquid, gas. So kung balikan natin, what are they? They are the phases of matter. So now, ang aton nga phase diagram is nothing but a graph. Kung makita ninyo, graph siya sang pressure versus temperature, which shows the phase of matter at a given temperature and a given nga pressure. So, okay, so here we will exactly come to know what is the phase diagram and its graph in a very brief lang nga discussion. Kay as shown sa sini nga image, makita ninyo, may ara kita tatlo ka phases, which is your solid, your liquid, and your gas as shown. And they are separated by tatlo ka lines. So, we have your solid, we have your liquid, and we have your gas dire. So, we have your, kung makita ninyo, we have your fusion nga curve. So, fusion curve is also referred to as your melting curve or your freezing nga curve. So, let me just proceed with the picture here. So, when we mention about freezing, so medyo familiar na ta na sa sinang term. So, based on the graph sa baba, your freezing point is halin sa point A to point B. So, this one, halin sa point A, pakato sa point B. Amo na yung mga freezing nga curve. So, that line or AB nga line indicates that the solid phase and the liquid phase are in equilibrium. So both silingon ang imong solid phase and liquid nga phase equilibrium na sila. And this line kung sa diin sila equilibrium amo na ginatawag naton nga fusion curve or your melting and freezing curve. So, I'll explain to you the practical example of your solid-liquid equilibrium. Sa diin siya kakatabo. Paano siya naton ma-picture out kung anong kakatabo with that curve. So, kung makita ninyo sa sining figure, so this shows the ice and the water in an equilibrium state. So, Kung makita nyo niya, amo ni nga representation, that means neither the ice is melting nor the water is converted into ice. So, makita naton wala nagkakatunaw ang ice or wala naman ga-ice ang tubig because of the equilibrium state. Neither ice is melting nor water is converted to ice. This curve is also known as your melting curve or your freezing curve. This is amazing. So because makita naton dere, because they are in equilibrium, do wala na changes nga katabo. Wala nagakatunaw ang ice, wala naman ga-ice ang tubig. So because they are in equilibrium. Another dito nga curve nga makita naton sa aton nga phase diagram is the A to C nga curve. This one, A to C nga line. And this is your vaporization curve or your condensation curve. Okay, your AC line indicates that the liquid phase and your gaseous nga phase are in equilibrium. So, ari di ang liquid, ari ang ato nga gas. Ang ini nga point or ang ini nga line is your vaporization nga curve. Okay, so this is known as your vaporization curve. It is simple because we know that when water is converted into vapor, we call it sang process nga vaporization. And here, liquid and gaseous phase are in equilibrium with each other. So I have here a simple nga representation kung paano naton i-explain through example or through representation ang vaporization curve. You can see in this image that the water and the vapor both are in equilibrium. Okay? Equilibrium sila with each other. Such a phase is represented or as your vaporization or your condensation. So, they are in equilibrium. Next, we have dito sa babaw, we have your halin sa point O as sa point A. So we have your O to A. This is your sublimation curve or your deposition curve. Okay, OA line indicates that the solid ang daling part and you have your gaseous part. Therefore, your solid and your vapor state are in equilibrium with each other. This is known as our sublimation curve. Okay, pero ang question is, do you know what is sublimation? Kay kabalo kita based on the definition kung ano ang sublimation. But for example, I have here a picture kung paano kakatabo ang sublimation. Okay, this one. So, sublimation is nothing but just a conversion ng solid state directly into vapor. But silingon, wala na siya naglabay into its liquid phase. But halin sa solid, diretso siya nag-form into vapor. So, may pinaka-main or pinag-sinika example is the dry ice. So, kung makita ninyo sa picture, dry ice is in solid nga state. So, but it gets directly converted into its vapor state. Okay? It does not melt, but it directly evaporates. So such a phenomenon, ginatawag na siya naton as your sublimation nga process. So this one, kung may ara ka mo dry ice, kag nakita nyo nga gaso-asoda siya, that is undergoing the process known as sublimation. Okay, so kagina sa ating nga title dito sa babaw, we mentioned about your phase diagram and triple point. And we have here your triple point. So, ano ni siya or ano ang triple point? So, have you ever seen any object in solid, liquid, and gaseous state at the same time? Okay? So, have you ever seen isa ka object na solid siya, liquid siya, gas man siya at the same time? Okay, in this image nga nagkakakita ninyo subong, the pressure versus time or temperature curve sa ang pure water is given. So the water is in solid state, liquid state, as well as gaseous state. And that also at the same time. But siningon kakatabo na at the same time. So this situation, nga nagkakatabo at a particular temperature and pressure. So this is what we referred to as your triple point. Triple point of water. So, again, so balikan natin ang technical or ang tugid nga definition of your triple point. When we consider the triple point, the temperature and pressure at which all the three phases of matter, your solid, liquid, and gas, exist in equilibrium with each other, is known as your triple point of that certain matter. So the triple point of water, or for example, is obtained at exactly 4.58. So, ang triple points ng water exists at 4.58 millimeter mercury or mmHg, and it exists at your 273.16 Kelvin temperature. So, di ba? Your triple point of water exist at 4.58 millimeter mercury and 273.16 Kelvin temperature. So, triple point of water is used to fix sa aton nga scale sang amo na nga concept ang gigamit para makayo naton ang scale of your thermometer. Okay, so I do hope that you understood the concept of phase diagram and the triple point in a better way. So, now let us move on sa next natin nga topic. And this is the thermal expansion. So, we have here. So, kabalo kita nga the principles of thermodynamics are present all around us. So, kung makita niyo sa sining picture, I know kilala niyo ni. So, this is rails. So, this is a rail whether it be for a train or any man ang application. So, or question is, have you noticed based on this picture nga may ara gap between the rails? So, just try to think why this happens. Another one, I have a picture here. So this one, I know very much familiar. Tani kay kakakita, tani always. Have you seen something like this? So, why does this electrical wires are sagging? So maghamba ko saging nga aga amo ni ang iyang form, amo ni ang itsura. So, take note nga ang duwa nga kinplastar naton happens because of the concept nga ginatawag naton thermal expansion. Okay, let me explain the concept of thermal expansion with a very simple nga example. So I have here a picture. Okay, this one. Kung makita ninyo, so the ball passes through the ring. So it is kung ilagdag ko siya sa sininga ring, the ball passes through the ring. Here sa sininga unang image, you can see that the iron bulb at room temperature, if we pass this iron bulb through this ring, automatic, syempre makalabay siya dayon. This will pass easily as shown sa sininga image. Ano ang matabo if I'll try to hit the same iron ball with a burner and then pass this heated bulb through the ring? Again, makaigo siya sa sininga ball. Pero sa sininga ring, what if initon ko siya? Initon ko ang the same nga iron ball and itry ko siya ipaagyon liwat sa sininga ring. Okay, kung gininit ko na siya. So, the heated bulb or the heated ball will not pass through the ring anymore. Question is, why it occurs like this? Nga hindi na siya makaigo. Okay? Take note that based on the concept of chemistry nga ginplastar naton, see that all the objects are made up of atoms and molecules. So these atoms oscillates about their mean nga position. So when the temperature rises, the atoms and the molecules starts to oscillate with a large nga amplitude, mas dagko katama ang ilang nga movement because of the change in temperature. Medyo nagtaas atong temperature. Because of this, the distance between the molecules increases, which ultimately increases the dimension sa aton nga object nga ginalantaw or sa aton object nga gina-refer diri. Example, ang ini nga iron. So, imbis gamay lang siya, it expanded. Medyo doon nagdako siya. So, hence, as the temperature rises, the size ng aton nga object also increases. This is known as your thermal expansion. Kung ginainit mong isa ka object, ga-expand siya. So, the increase in the dimensions of the object due to the absorption of heat is known as your thermal expansion. And on the contrary, we have the decrease sa dimensions ng object due to the rejection of heat. Ginatawag siya natin as your thermal contraction. So we have thermal expansion and we have thermal contraction. Okay, so may ara kita tatlo ka types of thermal expansion. When we mention about thermal expansion, we have tatlo ka types. Number one, we have your linear. We have also your areal expansion. We have your volumetric nga expansion. So maghambal ta linear expansion when the body expands linearly due to the absorption of thermal energy. So amo na niya movement. So kadidto lang. That is your linear expansion. Aerial expansion or superficial expansion. Kung ang imong thin sheet of metal expands due to absorption of your thermal energy, it is known as area thermal expansion. Gadako ya area. So that is your thermal expansion. Area, linear, galaba lang siya. Volumetric expansion or your cubical expansion. Kung ang volume sa aton nga body increases due to the absorption of thermal energy, then it is known as your volumetric thermal expansion or your cubical thermal expansion. Okay, so amo na siya ang pinagid ka concept of your Zeroth Law of Thermodynamics. Amo na ang focus natin of the discussion. So we have your thermal expansion. Take note, the concept of temperature and thermal expansion presented here will be used in the overall concept of thermodynamics. Nga lang tawon naton later on. Okay, so for this concept of your Zeroth Law of Thermodynamics, this is it for now. Thank you. Stay safe. God bless.